The question is, well, the member needs to call.
I did stand, sorry.
Well, standing is not
I
calling.
apologise,
Stuart
Mr Chair.
Nash.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. As our Member for Local Government, Phil Twyford, mentioned, we do support this bill. And I think you heard something before that I thought I would never ever hear in this House. I heard Phil Twyford. I thought I heard him praise Rodney Hyde. Was I right there, Mr Twyford? Gee, so it must be good. It must be good. But we do support this bill. One of the main reasons I support this bill, well, there are a number. I mean, it makes common sense. It's very pragmatic. In fact, it was probably one of ours, was it, Phil, before it came to the House? But one of the main reasons I support this bill is I think it provides one of those models that in fact could take the place of state asset sales. Because what this allows people to do is go out there and invest money without selling equity, or it allows local authorities to raise money without having to sell off assets. And this is particularly relevant, for example, to my colleague Brendan Burns, who has brought up many times in the media, and I think even in this House in a number of speeches, the concern that he has about the Christchurch City Council selling their state assets to fund infrastructural development and redevelopment and construction. And I have no doubt Mr Burns will be talking about this when he takes a call in a couple of minutes. We're talking about part one, and this part facilitates the operation of the funding agency. And as a consequence of that, and as a consequence of, I suppose, the unique nature of this, in part, Clause 3, Part 2, there are a number of things that had to be set up that would allow this to work, this agency to work in a manner that optimised its mandate. For example, it exempts the funding agency from certain regulatory or taxation criteria which might apply to it. And it applies certain regulatory and taxation criteria to the funding agency that would not apply to it. And I suppose what this does is it shows the unique nature of this bill and the fact that it is absolutely necessary. What this agency will do will issue debt on behalf of all participating local authorities. And if the cooperation and support from the councils is sufficient, the agency would be expected to achieve a credit rating scale and specialisation that would yield significant saving for the participating local authorities. And I suppose what that will do in the end, Mr Chair, is not only save the sale of these council-owned assets, what it will do is it will allow councils to better manage limited resources, and hopefully what it may do is allow councils to actually drop the rates. Because I know, for example, in the area where I'm from Napier, the council only has about $4 million of debt, but the Hastings District Council has around $60 million of debt, which is expected to blow out to about $90 million of debt in 3 years. Now, the cost to the ratepayer of financing that debt is extremely high. And of course, every dollar that's spent financing debt is money that can't be spent in improving council infrastructure and building council assets and basically making sure that the city is running. But also what it means is that councils have to levy ratepayers a much higher amount in order to be able to finance that debt. So this is the second reason why I think this is a very good bill. And whilst big is not always better at all, if you get participating local authorities together that allows economies of scale, this is one area where you can get those synergies that allows, like I said, allows the benefits that I talked about. The operation of the funding agency will aid in the development of a liquid market and standardised local authority bonds. These will benefit retail and wholesale investors and be positive for New Zealand capital markets. Because, Mr Chair, if there's one thing that I have a concern about, it's the lack of depth in our capital markets. And I would also say that the way to get that depth is not to sell our state assets, but these sorts of bonds. And I suppose if you've got a debt bond which is backed by a local authority, it provides those sort of, we call them ma and pa investors, which I think is a misnomer actually, but people who want to invest in the stock market or in our capital markets will be able to invest, and I assume this will be quite a low risk bond, quite a low returning bond, but it provides another option in the whole suite of options that are required to provide depth in our capital markets, which is one thing which is hugely important. And I think with the collapse of the finance companies, what we're seeing now is people becoming more and more risk adverse. This provides that other option, which is great. The bill provides the funding agency with certain legislative entitlements and exemptions that will allow the funding agency to be treated as if it were a local authority. And this is talking about how it raises money, how it deals with stockholders. So we do support this bill. Thank you very much.
I'll call Brendan Burns.